Ambassador Elena Rodriguez walked through the massive corridors of Concordia Prime. The space station was the size of a small moon, built by 12 alien races over thousands of years. Every surface showed their power and age. Crystal walls from the Astrani glowed with soft light. Metal panels from the Kythera hummed with energy. Stone carvings from the Vorthic told stories older than human civilization. Elena hated this place. 3 years had passed since humans signed the Treaty of Kepler Station. 3 years since the war ended. 3 years since humanity became the youngest and weakest member of the Galactic Council. The other races never let humans forget it. Elena entered the council chamber. The room was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up to the ceiling. Each race had their own section. The Astrani floated in their energy pods, their bodies made of pure light. The Kythera clicked and buzzed from their hive-like structures. The ancient Vorthic sat on stone thrones, their massive bodies barely moving. Humans got 12 seats in the back corner. The junior members may observe, announced Councillor Zeftar, an Astrani whose voice sounded like wind chimes. The translation device in Elena's ear made the words clear, but the contempt came through perfectly. Elena sat down and watched. Today's discussion was about trade routes through the Andara sector. The council races talked about humans like they were not in the room. The Kythera wanted to limit human shipping. The Vorthic thought human traders were too aggressive. The Astrani believed human emotions made them unreliable partners. Elena kept her face calm. She had learned that skill in her first week here. Show anger, and they called humans primitive. Show sadness, and they called humans weak. Show nothing, and they ignored you completely. She preferred being ignored. The meeting ended after 4 hours. Elena gathered her notes and walked back to the human section of the station. It was smaller than a city block back on Earth, but it was home to 200 diplomats, traders, and support staff. Captain Marcus Webb met her at the entrance. He commanded the human security force on the station. 50 Marines who carried weapons that looked primitive compared to alien technology. The aliens allowed it because 50 humans with basic weapons could not threaten anyone important. The aliens did not know about the upgrades. How bad was it today? Marcus asked as they walked to Elena's office. The usual. They want to reduce our shipping permits again. Something about human traders being too competitive. Elena sat down at her desk. Through the window, she could see human cargo ships docking at the outer rings. Small vessels compared to the massive alien craft, but they moved with purpose. Marcus handed her a datapad. Latest reports from the colonies. Production is up 18% across all worlds. New Singapore finished their university. New Moscow completed the orbital shipyards. Elena smiled. The first real smile of her day. The Treaty of Kepler Station gave humans 37 worlds in what the aliens called the Terran sector. The council thought they were being generous. They expected humans to struggle with basic survival on these frontier worlds. Instead, humans thrived. Every human world had something the council did not expect. New Singapore became a center of learning, where human and alien knowledge mixed to create new ideas. New Moscow built ships faster and cheaper than anyone thought possible. New Tokyo grew food that could feed twice as many people as the aliens calculated. Any word from Admiral Chun? Elena asked. Marcus nodded. Project Exodus is ahead of schedule. The new ships passed all tests. If we ever need to leave quickly, we can take everyone. Project Exodus was humanity's secret. While the council watched human colonies grow, they missed the real preparation. Every human world had hidden shipyards. Every human ship had upgrades that did not appear on any council inspection. Every human family knew exactly what to take if they had to run. Elena hoped they would never need it. But humans had learned not to trust alien promises. Dr. Patel sent her report too, Marcus continued. The reverse engineering project is making progress. We almost understand how their faster-than-light engines work. That was another secret. The Council gave humans basic technology as part of the treaty. Simple computers, basic medical equipment, and old starship designs. They thought humans would be grateful for scraps. Instead, humans took apart every piece of alien technology they could find. Human engineers and scientists worked day and night to understand how everything worked. They found ways to improve designs that aliens had used for centuries without changing. Elena's communication device beeped. A message from Earth. President Chun wanted a full report on today's council session. Sarah Chun was Admiral Wei Chun's sister, and both siblings understood that humanity's survival depended on being ready for anything. Elena began typing her report. She wrote about the trade route discussion and the continuing restrictions on human expansion. She mentioned the subtle insults and the not-so-subtle threats. She described how Councillor Zeph, Tar, had referred to human emotions as a contaminating influence on younger species. That phrase worried Elena. The Council had been using it more often lately. They seemed concerned that other alien races were learning from humans. Learning to question the Council's rules. Learning to think for themselves. Elena finished her report and sent it to Earth. Then she walked to the observation deck of the human section. Outside, the stars looked the same as they did from Earth, but everything else had changed. 3 years ago, humans thought they were alone in the galaxy. Then came first contact, followed quickly by war when the Council demanded that humans submit to their authority. The war lasted 6 months. Humans lost more ships and people than they could afford. But they also proved something important. They proved that humans would not submit easily. The Treaty of Kepler Station ended the fighting, but it did not end the conflict. It just moved the battlefield from space to conference rooms and trade negotiations. Elena fought that battle every day, surrounded by alien races who saw humans as primitive newcomers, who should be grateful for any scraps of respect. Elena looked at the human ships docked outside. Each one carried supplies, people, and messages between human worlds. The Council monitored every ship, but they could not monitor every conversation. Humans were building something new. Out here in their small corner of the galaxy dot, the question was whether the Council would let them keep building it. Elena's communication device beeped again. This time, it was a priority message from Admiral Chun on Earth. The message was short and coded, but Elena understood it immediately. The Council was planning something that would change everything. Elena looked down at the stars one more time. Tomorrow's Council session might be very different from today's. She hoped humans were ready for whatever came next. They had to be ready, because in this galaxy, being weak meant being someone else's property. And humans had already decided they would never be property again. The stars waited, silent and patient. Soon they would witness whether humanity's brief moment of freedom would continue, or whether the Council would finally put the newcomers in their proper place. The emergency session alarm echoed through Concordia Prime at dawn. Elena Rodriguez rushed through empty corridors toward the Council chamber. Emergency sessions were rare. In 3 years, she had seen only 2. Both times had brought bad news for humanity. The Council chamber buzzed with activity. All 12 alien races had sent their highest representatives. Elena noticed that security had doubled around the chamber. Kithara warriors stood at every entrance, their insect-like bodies covered in weapons. Lestrani energy beings floated in defensive formations. Even the ancient Vorthig had brought guards. Elena took her seat in the human section. Captain Webb sat beside her, his hand resting near his side-on. The other human diplomats looked tense. Whatever was happening, the Council wanted to make sure humans could not leave. Councillor Zephyr rose from his energy pod. His light form pulsed with authority as he spoke. The Galactic Council convenes this emergency session to address a threat to galactic stability. Elena felt her stomach drop. When the Council talked about threats to stability, they usually meant humans. For the past year, Our observation teams have monitored disturbing developments in sectors near human territory, Zeftor continued. Young civilizations are showing signs of cultural contamination. They are becoming more aggressive, more territorial, more human. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a star map with dozens of systems highlighted in red. Elena recognized some of the names. These were species that humans had made contact with during trade missions. Peaceful contact, following all council rules. The Zahari have begun building weapons beyond their permitted level, announced Hive Queen Zaxar of the Kithara. Her voice sounded like grinding metal. The Dophani have refused tribute payments to our collection fleets. The Rilthan have declared independence from our guidance protocols. Elena kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt proud. These young species were learning to stand up for themselves. The council called it contamination. Elena called it freedom. Elder Kathos of the Vorthit moved his massive stone body forward. When he spoke, his voice shook the floor. This pattern matches historical precedents. Aggressive species spread their ideologies like disease. The humans must be contained before the contamination spreads further. Contained? Elena stood up. She was not supposed to speak without permission, but she had heard enough. The Treaty of Kepler Station guarantees human sovereignty over our territory. Zeftar's light form, brightened with what Elena had learned, was alien amusement. Ambassador Rodriguez, please direct your attention to Section 47 of the treaty, the Civilizational Stability Clause. Elena's blood turned cold. She knew every word of that treaty. She had studied it for 3 years. There was no Section 47. A new hologram appeared. It showed the treaty document, but not the version Elena had signed. This one had additional pages, additional clauses, additional restrictions that humans had never seen. Section 47, subsection 12. Zeftar read aloud. In the event that a member species demonstrates patterns of cultural or ideological contamination that threaten galactic stability, the Council reserves the right to implement corrective measures up to and including forced relocation for the safety of all galactic citizens. Elena stared at the document. The words were there, in clear text, with human and alien signatures. But she had never seen this version before. This is impossible, she said. We signed a different document. You signed the document we provided, Elder Kathos rumbled. Your species was too primitive to understand the full legal framework. We simplified it for your comprehension. The chamber fell silent, except for the humming of alien technology. Elena realized what had happened. The Council had never intended to honor the treaty as humans understood it. They had signed a fake version while keeping the real treaty secret. Humanity had been trapped from the beginning. Therefore, Zeftar announced, the Council hereby implements Resolution 847C. All human populations will be relocated to a single world designated for their containment. Human colonies will be redistributed among more stable species who can manage them responsibly. Elena felt the world spinning around her. You're talking about the forced relocation of 40 billion people. This is genocide. This is preservation, Hive Queen Zaxara clicked. Humans will be given a suitable world where they cannot contaminate other species. They will be provided with basic necessities and allowed to maintain their culture within safe boundaries. A reservation, Elena whispered. A sanctuary, Zeftar corrected. The Council is generous in its mercy. Humanity has 30 standard days to begin voluntary relocation. After that period, compliance will be enforced by Council security forces. Elena looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression. Satisfaction. They've planned this from the moment humans first entered their space. The war, the treaty, the 3 years of peace, all of it had been designed to lead to this moment. The human government will need time to consider this. Proposal, Elena said carefully. Of course, Zeftar agreed. 30 days should be sufficient for your leaders to see reason. Cooperation will make the transition easier for everyone. The session ended with standard diplomatic procedures. Forms were filed. Documents were transmitted. Schedules were arranged. Elena went through the motions while her mind raced. Captain Webb escorted her back to the human section. Neither of them spoke until they were in Elena's office with the door sealed. "They think they've won," Marcus said. Elena sat at her desk and stared at the star map on her wall. 37 human worlds marked with blue dots. 40 billion people who had trusted their government to protect them. "Maybe they have won," Elena said quietly. "Admiral Chun won't see it that way." Elena activated her quantum communicator. The device used technology that humans had reverse-engineered from alien computers. The Council monitored all standard communications, but they did not know about this upgrade. Admiral Wei Chun appeared as a hologram. His office on Earth looked exactly as Elena remembered it. Maps, reports, and coffee cups covering every surface. "Elena, we detected increased security around Concordia Prime. What's happening?" Elena told him everything. The emergency session, Resolution 847C, the hidden treaty clauses, the 30-day ultimatum. Admiral Chun listened without interrupting. 40 billion people, he said when she finished. "They want to put us in a cage." Why? A nice cage with good food and comfortable cells. But still a cage. Admiral Chun was quiet for a long moment. Elena could see him thinking, calculating, planning. She had known Wei Chun for 15 years. He was the man who had planned humanity's defense during the First War. The man who had designed Project Exodus. The man who never gave up. "Elena, I want you to do something for me." "What?" "I want you to schedule a formal response session with the Council. Tell them the human government needs to address their proposal officially." "When?" 72 hours from now." Elena frowned. "Why, that's cutting it close. If we're going to evacuate the colonies, who said anything about evacuation?" Admiral Chun's smile was the most frightening thing Elena had ever seen. It was the smile of a man who had been planning for this exact moment. "Just schedule the session, Elena, and make sure every council member is present. We want them all to hear humanity's official response." The transmission ended. Elena stared at the empty space where Admiral Chun's image had been. Outside her window, human ships continued their regular schedules. Loading cargo, carrying passengers, maintaining the trade routes that connected human worlds. Elena wondered how many of those ships were really cargo vessels. How many were something else entirely, waiting for orders that might come very soon. She activated her communicator and sent a message to the Council Secretariat. Ambassador Rodriguez requested a formal session in 3 days to deliver humanity's official response to Resolution 847C. The reply came back within minutes. The Council would be pleased to hear humanity's acceptance of their generous offer. Elena deleted the message and looked out at the stars. The aliens thought they understood humans. They thought humans would submit when faced with overwhelming force. Just like every other species they had conquered, the aliens were about to learn how wrong they were. The council chamber was fuller than Elena had ever seen it. Every alien race had sent their most important leaders. Councillor Zephyr floated in the center of his energy pod, surrounded by lesser Astrani. Hive Queen Zaxara commanded a full section of Kithara warriors. Elder Kathos had brought 3 other Vorthic elders, their stone bodies forming an imposing wall. They expected to witness humanity's surrender. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. According to council protocol, she should have remained in the human section while delivering her government's response. Instead, she positioned herself where every alien in the room could see her clearly. The United Earth government has carefully considered Resolution 847C, Elena began. Her voice carried clearly through the translation systems. President Chun has asked me to deliver our official response. Councillor Zephdar's light form pulsed with satisfaction. The Council is pleased that humanity has seen the wisdom of cooperation. Elena smiled. Not the diplomatic smile she had worn for 3 years, but a real smile that made several aliens shift uncomfortably. Before I deliver our response, the President has requested permission to address the Council directly via quantum communication. The aliens exchanged glances. Direct communication from Earth during a Council session was unusual, but not forbidden. Elder Kathos nodded his massive head. The Council grants permission. Elena activated her communicator. The holographic image of President Sarah Chun appeared above the chamber floor. She wore the simple blue suit that had become her signature, but her expression was anything but simple. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, President Chun began. I want to personally thank you for clarifying humanity's position in your organization. The aliens looked confused. They had expected fear, anger, or desperate pleading. President Chun sounded like she was thanking them for directions to a restaurant. For 3 years, we have tried to be good junior members of your council. We followed your rules, accepted your restrictions, and hoped that patience would earn us respect. President Chun paused and looked directly at the alien leaders. Yesterday, you showed us exactly how much our patience was worth. The chamber grew quiet. Even the constant humming of Kethera technology seemed to fade. You revealed that the treaty we signed was a lie, that you never intended to honor our sovereignty, that you see us as contamination to be contained. Councilor Zephyr interrupted. President Chun, humanity's emotional response to necessary protective measures. I'm not finished. The words cut through the chamber like a blade. President Chun's voice carried an authority that made even the ancient Vorthic lean forward. The United Earth Government formally withdraws from the Treaty of Kepler Station. We renounce recognition of the Galactic Council's authority over human affairs. Effective immediately, all Council personnel have 72 hours to evacuate human territory. Silence. Complete, total silence. Then chaos. Alarms began blaring throughout Concordia Prime. Emergency lights flashed red. Automated voices announced security protocols in 12 alien languages. In the council chamber, every alien leader began talking at once. Elena stood in the center of it all, perfectly calm. This is impossible, Hive Queen Zaxara chittered. No species has ever withdrawn from the council, because no species has ever been strong enough to survive outside council protection, Elder Kathos rumbled. Humans will return within months, begging for readmission. President Chun's image remained steady despite the chaos around her. Perhaps, but we're willing to find out. Councilor Zephyr's light form blazed with anger. Humanity cannot simply walk away from galactic civilization. You have obligations, responsibilities. To whom? President Chun asked. To a council that lied to us from the beginning? To allies who never saw us as equals? To a system designed to keep us contained? Elena activated her personal communicator. Captain Webb's voice came through clearly despite the noise in the chamber. Package delivery is beginning on schedule, he reported. Elena nodded. Project Exodus was launching. On her holographic display, Elena could see what was happening across human space. Every human colony was implementing the same plan simultaneously. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed their true purpose. Hidden shipyards activated emergency production schedules. Civilian transports that could carry 1,000 passengers suddenly appeared in orbit around every human world. The aliens had spent 3 years watching human colonies grow. They had missed the evacuation fleet being built right under their noses. You cannot evacuate 40 billion people, Councilor Zephyr protested. The logistics are impossible, are they? President Chun asked. Admiral, please give our friends an update. Admiral Wei Chun appeared beside his sister's image. His uniform was crisp, his expression confident. Colony evacuation is proceeding on schedule. New Singapore reports 80% population boarding complete. New Moscow has achieved 60%. All colonies expect full evacuation within 48 hours. The alien leaders stared at the display. Elena could see them trying to process what they were hearing. No species had ever attempted something like this. No species had ever been prepared for something like this. "Where will you go?" Elder Kathos demanded. "The galaxy is large, but Council influence extends everywhere." "Not everywhere," Admiral Chun replied. "Humanity has been exploring regions that the Council considers worthless. We found many interesting places." Elena knew what he meant. For 3 years, human scout ships had been mapping systems beyond Council territory. Regions considered too dangerous, too remote, or too poor in resources for Council attention. Regions where younger species lived without Council oversight. "This is madness," Hive Queen Zaxara clicked. "You will die in the void between stars." "Maybe," President Chun agreed. "But we'll die free." Elena watched the real-time reports flowing across her display. Human colonies were disappearing from Council sensor networks as evacuation fleets jumped to hyperspace. 40 billion people, everything they could carry, and 3 years of secretly prepared supplies. The largest migration in galactic history was happening in real time. "What about your infrastructure?" Councilor Zefter demanded. "Your cities, your factories, your orbital stations?" Elena smiled again. "What about them?" New images appeared on her display. Human colonies weren't just evacuating people. They were destroying everything they couldn't take. Fusion reactors overloaded in carefully controlled explosions. Orbital shipyards broke apart and fell into stars. Cities that had taken decades to build vanished in clouds of plasma. Humans would leave nothing useful for their replacements. "You're destroying functioning colonies," Elder Kathos said in disbelief. "Do you understand the economic value you're eliminating?" "We understand that we built them," Admiral Chum replied. "And we choose to destroy them rather than leave them for thieves." Elena checked her chronometer. The evacuation fleets would complete their jumps in 6 hours. By then, every human in Council space would be gone. 40 billion people and the infrastructure of an entire civilization vanished like they had never existed. "This is temporary insanity," Councilor Zefter declared. "When humans realize the impossibility of their situation, they will return. The Council might be willing to negotiate new terms." President Chun's expression didn't change. "The Council will negotiate with empty space. Humanity is done negotiating." The transmission ended. Elena gathered her diplomatic credentials and placed them on the floor of the Council chamber. "Ambassador Rodriguez." Councilor Zefter called as she turned to leave. "Where are you going?" "Home," Elena said simply. "The Council will not forget this insult. If humanity ever returns to civilized space." Elena stopped and looked back at the alien leaders. They looked smaller somehow, sitting in their grand chambers surrounded by the symbols of their ancient power. "Councilor Zefter, you still don't understand. We're not running away from you. Then what are you doing?" Elena's smile was the last thing the Council saw before she left their chamber forever. "We're walking away from you. There's a difference." 6 hours later, the last human ship jumped to hyperspace. For the first time in 3 years, no human vessels appeared on Council sensors. No human colonies sent status reports. No human diplomats attended Council sessions. Humanity had simply vanished. The Council spent weeks trying to understand what had happened. Their analysts studied the evacuation, searching for clues about where humans had gone. They found nothing. 40 billion people had disappeared into the vast darkness between stars. The Council declared the human experiment a failure. They divided human territory among loyal species. They assigned new names to human colonies and began planning their redevelopment. They convinced themselves that humans would return as refugees within a year. They were wrong about that too. In the depths of space, far from Council territory, human fleets regrouped around hidden bases that had been prepared for exactly this moment. Humanity had walked away from galactic civilization, Now they would build their own. 6 months after humanity vanished, the first reports reached Concordia Prime. Counselor Zeftar read the intelligence summary with growing disbelief. Human ships had appeared in the Helix Nebula, a region the Council considered worthless frontier space. They were not refugee vessels begging for help. They were organized fleets making contact with independent species. "This cannot be accurate," Zeftar announced to the emergency session. "Humans cannot have survived 6 months in the void." Hive Queen Zaxara activated a holographic display showing the latest intelligence reports. Red markers appeared throughout the outer galaxy regions, each one representing confirmed human activity. 17 different star systems report human contact, she chittered. The Zahari have signed a formal alliance. The Delphani have opened their space to human vessels. The Rilthan have declared independence from Council authority and requested human protection. Elder Kathos shifted his massive stone body forward. Independence? The Rilthan have been Council subjects for 400 years. Not anymore, announced a new voice. The Council chamber fell silent as a holographic transmission appeared without authorization. Admiral Wei Chun stood in what looked like a ship's bridge, but not any ship design the Council recognized. "Admiral Chun," Counselor Zeftar said carefully. "The Council is surprised to hear from you. I'm sure you are." Admiral Chun wore a new uniform with symbols the Council had never seen. Behind him, the bridge showed a mix of human and alien crew members working together. "I wanted to personally inform you that the Terran Alliance has been formally established." Terran Alliance, Hive Queen Zaxara demanded. "A voluntary association of species committed to mutual cooperation and respect," Admiral Chun explained. "Currently 47 member species and growing." The display updated to show a new star map. The red markers had been replaced by blue ones, and there were many more of them. Systems that the Council had ignored for centuries now showed organized government and active defense fleets. "Impossible," Elder Kathos rumbled. "These species lacked the technology for space cooperation." "They did," Admiral Chun agreed. "We helped them develop it. In return, they shared their own knowledge and resources with us. Amazing what species can accomplish when they're treated as equals instead of subjects." Elena Rodriguez appeared beside Admiral Chun. She wore the same new uniform, but with different symbols indicating her role as Secretary General of the Alliance. "Hello, Counselor Zeftar," Elena said pleasantly. "Thank you for helping us realize that galactic civilization needed a better option." The Council leaders exchanged worried looks. These humans seemed different from the desperate diplomats they remembered. Confident, organized, dangerous. "What exactly do you want?" Counselor Zeftar asked. "Nothing from you," Elena replied. "We're simply informing you that the Alliance exists and will defend its territory. We don't want war, but we won't accept Council interference in Alliance space." "Alliance space?" Hive Queen Zaxara's voice rose to a shriek. "You cannot claim territory that belongs to the Council." Admiral Chun smiled. "We're not claiming Council territory. We're claiming empty space that you never bothered to explore. Space inhabited by species you never bothered to contact. Resources you never bothered to develop." The holographic display zoomed out to show the full galaxy. Council space appeared in green, covering roughly 1/3 of the mapped region. Alliance space appeared in blue, covering scattered systems throughout the outer galaxy and frontier regions. As you can see, there's plenty of room for both civilizations. Elder Kathos studied the map with growing alarm. "This changes the balance of galactic power, does it?" Elena asked innocently. "The Council still controls its traditional territory. We're simply offering an alternative to species who want something different." "You're stealing our subjects," Counselor Zeftar accused. "We're offering them a choice," Admiral Chun corrected. "Join the Alliance voluntarily, remain independent, or continue as Council subjects." Their decision. The Council leaders realized what was happening. For thousands of years, young species had only one option when they developed space travel: submit to Council authority or be isolated and destroyed. Now, there was a second option. Show them the Zahari report, Elena suggested. Admiral Chun activated another display. It showed the Zahari home system, which the Council remembered as a primitive world barely past nuclear technology. Now it bustled with space stations, orbital factories, and defensive platforms. The Zahari were given advanced technology in exchange for joining the Alliance, Admiral Chun explained. But more importantly, they were given respect. Alliance engineers worked with Zahari scientists to adapt our technology to their biology and culture. They weren't forced to abandon their identity. In 6 months, they progressed further than most Council species do in centuries, Elena added. Amazing what happens when you treat people as partners instead of subjects. Hive Queen Zaxara activated her own intelligence network. Our sources report unusual ship designs in Alliance space. Technology that appears to exceed Council standards. Admiral Chun's smile became predatory. 3 years of reverse engineering your technology, combined with innovations from 47 different species, tends to produce interesting results. The Council chamber erupted in alarm calls and angry chittering. For the first time in Galactic history, someone had developed technology that the Council didn't control. You violated the technology transfer restrictions in the original treaty, Councillor Zefter protested. What treaty? Elena asked. We withdrew from that agreement, remember? Besides, most of our improvements came from our new partners, not from your gifts. Admiral Chun gestured to his bridge crew. Elena could see Zahari engineers working alongside human technicians. Delphani aquatic specialists monitored systems designed for underwater operations. Rilfan telepaths coordinated communications without speaking. It turns out that when you combine the knowledge of 47 different species, you discover things that none of them could learn alone, Admiral Chun said. The Alliance isn't just politically different from the Council. It's scientifically superior. Prove it, Elder Kathos challenged. The transmission ended abruptly. For several minutes, the Council chamber remained, silent as the leaders processed what they had heard. Then alarms began blaring throughout Concordia. Prime, Council forces report contact with unknown vessels in the Helix Nebula, announced a Kitara communications officer. Battle Group 7 requests instructions. Councillor Zefter activated the tactical display. The Helix Nebula appeared as a 3-dimensional map showing the positions of Council and Alliance forces. Battle Group 7 consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, the most advanced warships in Council service. 4 small Alliance vessels had appeared at the edge of the system. Tell Battle Group 7 to demand the Alliance vessels withdraw immediately, Zefter ordered. The communications officer relayed the message. Several minutes passed before the response came back. Battle Group 7 reports that Alliance vessels have declined to withdraw. The Alliance commander suggests that Council forces should leave peacefully. 4 ships against 12? Hive Queen Zaxara laughed. Order Battle Group 7 to remove them. The tactical display updated in real time. The Council ships moved into attack formation and advanced toward the Alliance vessels. Elena watched from Concordia Prime. As her people prepared to fight the Council's most advanced warships, the battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, all 4 Alliance ships remained operational. Battle Group 7's flagship was destroyed. The remaining Council vessels were disabled and drifting helplessly. The Council chamber fell silent again. How? Whispered Elder K single quotes THOSS. Admiral Chun's transmission returned. Behind him, the Alliance bridge showed calm efficiency despite the battle they had just won. New technology, better tactics, and crews who fight for something they believe in instead of something they fear, he explained. The Alliance builds weapons to protect freedom. The Council builds weapons to enforce submission. There's a difference. Elena stepped forward on the transmission. The disabled Council ships are being escorted out of Alliance space with their crews unharmed. We don't want to destroy the Council. We just want you to leave us alone. This won't end here, Counselor Zefta warned. The Council has resources you cannot imagine. So do we, Admiral Chun replied. And ours grow every day as more species choose freedom over submission. The transmission ended for the final time. The Council leaders sat in their ancient chamber, surrounded by the symbols of power that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. For the first time in their history, that power had been challenged successfully. Elder Kethos spoke into the silence. What do we do now? Counselor Zeftar stared at the tactical display still showing the aftermath of Battle Group 7's defeat. 4 small ships had destroyed the pride of the Council fleet. We adapt, he said finally. Or we fall. In Alliance space, human and alien crews worked together to build something the galaxy had never seen. A civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. A government based on voluntary association instead of forced submission. The Council would try to destroy it. Elena was certain of that. She was equally certain that they would fail. 2 years after the Battle of Helix Nebula, Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station and watched the galaxy change. The space station moved constantly through Alliance territory, never staying in one system for more than a few weeks. It served as the mobile capital of the Terran Alliance, a symbol that this government belonged to all its members, rather than any single world. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Elena could see ships from dozens of species. Sahari vessels with their crystalline hulls gleamed like jewels in the starlight. Delphani ships moved through space like metal fish, their designs perfect for both air and water. Human vessels worked alongside Rilthan telepathic craft and Corvani, mining barges. The Alliance had grown to 83 member species, not through conquest or intimidation, but through invitation and choice. Impressive sight, isn't it? Admiral Chen Wei joined Elena at the window. His uniform now showed 5 stars, marking his rank as Supreme Admiral of Alliance Defense Forces. I never imagined anything like this when we walked away from the Council, Elena admitted. 40 billion refugees becoming the foundation of a new civilization. We weren't refugees, Admiral Chun corrected gently. We were pioneers. There's a difference. Elena smiled. Admiral Chun had been saying that for 2 years, and she was finally beginning to understand what he meant. Her communication device chimed with an incoming message. Dr. Sarah. Okafor's face appeared on the holographic display. The former head of reverse engineering had become the Alliance's Minister of Technology Cooperation. Elena, we just received word from the hegemony borders, Dr. Okafor reported. 3 more Council species have requested private meetings with our diplomatic teams. The Astrani moderates are being very careful, but they're definitely interested in our technology sharing programs. Elena nodded. The Council was fragmenting slowly but steadily. Species that had been loyal subjects for centuries were beginning to question whether the old system served their interests. The Alliance offered an alternative that many found attractive. Any word from the Vorthik? Admiral Chun asked. Dr. Okafor shook her head. The Stone People remain completely opposed to everything we represent. But even they haven't tried another military confrontation since Helix Nebula. That battle had changed everything. When news spread that 4 Alliance ships had defeated 12 Council heavy cruisers, it shattered the myth of Council military superiority. Species throughout the galaxy realized that the Council could be challenged successfully. More importantly, Alliance crews had rescued the survivors from the destroyed Council flagship and returned them unharmed. The galaxy learned that Alliance forces fought to defend, not to conquer. What about the newcomers? Elena asked. Integration is proceeding well. The Felani aquatic engineering teams are already working with human and Delphani specialists on underwater habitat designs. The Corvani mining expertise is revolutionizing our asteroid extraction operations. Admiral Chun studied the latest reports. 83 species, and we've never had a single member try to leave the Alliance. Because they joined voluntarily, Elena pointed out. They stay because they want to stay. That was the fundamental difference between the Alliance and the Council. Council subjects remained loyal through fear or lack of options. Alliance members remained because they benefited from cooperation and retained the right to leave whenever they chose. A soft chime announced the arrival of a visitor. Zarahai of the Zahari entered the observation deck, her crystalline features reflecting the starlight from outside. She had been one of the Alliance's first members and now served as Minister of Cultural Exchange. "Elena, Admiral Chun," she said in her melodic voice. "I wanted to inform you personally about today's conference results. How did the younger species respond to our education proposals?" Elena asked. "Beyond our best expectations. 17 different civilizations have requested Alliance assistance in developing their universities and research centers. The Thari want to learn human agricultural techniques. The Valani are fascinated by Zahari crystal technology. The Banari have asked for help establishing their first space academy." Elena felt the familiar warmth of pride. The Alliance didn't just offer military protection or advanced technology. It offered knowledge, education, and the chance for every species to develop their unique potential. The Council would have kept all of these species at a primitive level for centuries. Admiral Chun observed. "The Council sees potential subjects," Zarahai replied. "The Alliance sees potential partners." Elena's communication device chimed again. This time, it was Captain Marcus Webb, still commanding Alliance security forces. "Elena, we're receiving a priority signal from deep space. Long-range sensors detected a massive object entering Alliance territory. Council forces?" Admiral Chun asked immediately. "No, sir. The signature doesn't match any known Council technology. Actually, it doesn't match any known Alliance technology either." Elena and Admiral Chun exchanged glances. Unknown vessels in Alliance space were always cause for concern. "We're on our way to the command center," Elena told Captain Webb. They made their way through New Geneva Station's corridors, past the mixed crews of humans and aliens who kept the station running. The command center buzzed with activity as officers from a dozen species worked together to analyze the mysterious signal. Captain Webb met them at the central display. "Long-range telescopes got a visual confirmation 20 minutes ago. You need to see this." The holographic display activated, showing a massive cylindrical object moving slowly through space. Elena recognized the design immediately, even though she hadn't seen anything like it for decades. "That's a generation ship," she whispered. "Human design. Early colonial period," Admiral Chun confirmed. But all the generation ships were accounted for. The last one arrived at its destination over a century ago. Dr. Okafor's voice came through the communication system. "I'm running the ship's configuration through our historical databases. Based on the design specifications, this appears to be the UES Horizon." Elena felt her heart skip a beat. "That's impossible. The Horizon was lost during the first colonial wave. It disappeared 300 years ago." "Apparently it didn't disappear," Captain Webb said. "It's been traveling through deep space all this time. The passengers were probably in cryogenic sleep." Admiral Chun studied the readings. 300 years. They left Earth before humans even knew about alien life. They're expecting to find an empty galaxy ready for human colonization. Instead, they're going to find the Alliance, Elena said softly. The implications hit all of them at the same time. The Horizon's passengers had been asleep for 3 centuries. They knew nothing about the Galactic Council, the war, the treaty, or humanity's exodus from Council space. They were about to wake up in a galaxy completely different from the one they had left. "Prepare a first contact team," Elena ordered. "And I want our best historians briefing them on everything that's happened since they left Earth." "First contact team?" Dr. Okafor asked over the communication link. Elena, these are humans. No, Elena replied, watching the massive Generation ship approach Alliance space. These are our ancestors' vision of what humanity could become. Explorers who left Earth to build something new among the stars. Admiral Chun smiled. They're going to love what we've built here. Over the following days, the Alliance prepared to welcome the Horizon's passengers. Medical teams stood ready to help with the revival process. Historians compiled comprehensive briefings on 3 centuries of human history. Cultural specialists prepared to explain how humanity had evolved during the passengers' long sleep when the revival process began. Elena was among the first Alliance representatives to meet the Horizon's crew. Captain Sarah Foster had been the mission commander 300 years ago. Her first question after awakening was whether they had reached their destination. In a way, yes, Elena told her. But your destination turned out to be much more interesting than anyone expected. Elena spent hours explaining the galaxy the Horizon's passengers had awakened to find. The discovery of alien life. The Council's dominance and humanity's resistance. The exodus from Council space and the formation of the Alliance. 83 different species? Captain Foster asked in amazement. All working together voluntarily? All working together as equals, Elena confirmed. Your Generation ship left Earth, hoping to find new worlds where humans could build a better society. We found something even more valuable. We found partners who wanted to build that better society with us. A young crew member from the Horizon, barely out of cryogenic sleep, raised her hand shyly. What about the Council? Do they still try to control everyone? Elena exchanged glances with Admiral Chun. The Council still exists, but they're learning that the galaxy is big enough for different ways of life. Some species prefer the security of Council authority. Others choose the freedom of Alliance cooperation. And some, Admiral Chun added, are beginning to realize that they have options they never knew existed. Captain Foster studied the star charts showing Alliance territory. 300 years ago, we left Earth because we believed humanity could build something better among the stars. It looks like we were right. Elena nodded. The Alliance isn't perfect. We still face challenges, disagreements, and problems to solve. But we face